What's up, Shadowhunters, Angels, and Downwaters alike, and welcome to Fair and Unbiased, where I go into the nitty-gritty details of Shadowhunters episodes every week. This week's episode is about Parabatai Lost. The first thing I want to address is a sort of issue that I didn't even notice when I was first watching the episode, but when it was pointed out to me, I was just like, oh yeah. The actress who plays Isabel in the flashbacks of them being younger, the actress that they hired to play Isabel is white. And I don't want to sound like I'm being like overly like PC here, because I'm not like the sort of person who would get like extremely offended about race and stuff. I try and put talent before race, but we do need more representation and all that. But that's a conversation for another video. And they hired a white actress to play Isabel as a kid, even though Emery Tobia, who portrays Isabel in the show, is of Latina heritage. It is never fully addressed in the show, it never has been, whether Isabel is actually Latina or not, like Emery is. But there have been sort of hints towards it, because she does sort of speak Spanish in some of the episodes. Like there's wee passing comments, the same way Raphael does. It's just like little hints, like maybe she is, maybe like there's just some ancestry down the line in the Lightwoods in this universe, but it doesn't fit to have a white actress play Isabel if a Latina actress plays her when she's older, because it's like white as a kid and then suddenly puberty hits and you're Latina. Is that what they were going for? I don't know. I feel like a lot of more thought could have been put into that, like maybe more, like a bigger search when they were casting. But yeah, it was a bit odd when it was pointed out. I was like, oh yeah, they did that for some reason. It's not something that I think would be a major problem, as long as it doesn't happen like often. Like they're not gonna get like a white actor to be Luke or something if they ever did a flashback again. So it did bother me a bit, but I'm not extremely angry. It's just one of those things where it's just like, oh, well, I hope it doesn't happen again. Let's talk about Maya. Isn't she awesome, guys? Look, I've been excited for Maya to come in because I loved her in the books. Now, I still believe the books are problematic. I still believe that the characters are problematic, the decisions they make are problematic, and there's a lot of stuff in the plot and stuff that's problematic about the books. But I was really excited for Maya to show up, and that's because Maya is one of the examples in this series of a strong female character. But not just that, she's an example of a strong female character who isn't necessarily on the good side. Maya is a good character. Like, she's on the good side. Like, she's not a villain, obviously, even though it was very hard to tell in that episode. She is just extremely loyal to her pack, and that loyalty stretches beyond the characters that we know and everyone else that we love so far in the series, because Maya's loyalty is with Luke and her own pack. So that causes her to make decisions. If someone crosses her or the pack or Luke, causes her to make decisions that could confuse an audience into believing that she was a bad guy, like we saw when she started hunting down Jace and wouldn't even listen to Luke about it. But that doesn't make her a bad guy. It doesn't make her like a villain like Valentine. It just means that she's extremely fiercely loyal to her pack, and that's something that I admire from her as a character. I admire the fact that she's loyal to her group, that she would do anything to get revenge and avenge her friends or fallen friends. And I hope as we know more about Maya, it becomes clear on why she is like this, because pack members are loyal anyway. Like, even if you see like wolves, like in real life, they are fiercely defensive of their pack. So I'll definitely be interested to see how they develop Maya further, because in the books her storyline is definitely interesting and it could resonate with a lot of people, because it does represent a particular group of women, and hopefully it goes a bit differently from in the book, because it started off really well but then it went a bit like everything in the books did, but I won't spoil anything because they have said on Twitter, Todd Slipkin has said that he is interested in introducing a character who's related to Maya in storyline wise later on in the season, so I don't want to say anything to ruin what that character is or what he does or anything with the future, but hopefully they'll be able to maybe improve upon the storyline, make it different from the way it was in the books, like they have been doing anyway. Alicia Wainwright slayed as Maya. I don't normally get like, when I see casting calls, I like to think, well, they must have hired them for a reason, let's see how they do. So I was very excited when they announced Alicia Wainwright as Maya, and I was not disappointed. I loved her portrayal. There was a sort of, she doesn't get overly angry, she sort of gets more like of a reserved kind of rage, and she's very restrained, but you can see that there's contempt there, and I just think that Alicia portrayed Maya really, really well, and I can't wait to see more of her and her character and the arc that they've got planned for her later on in the season and the seasons beyond. Luke seems to be facing a dilemma now. He's having to balance his work with his loyalty to Clary, and I think that is starting to build a wall between him and his pack, because the wolves have their blood for blood rule. You spill our blood, we spill yours. It's just their rule. It's something that they enforce. And because Luke knows that Jace is at the moment he knows that Jace is related to Clary and he means a lot to Clary, he couldn't enforce the blood for blood rule because he didn't want to hurt Clary. He didn't want to hurt Jace, which would hurt Clary. And even though Jace didn't kill Gretel, it did look that way. Even though it could have been very easily explained, like when that woman found him on the beach, like he was clearly wet as well, so he could have just said, yeah, we've been attacked and we just washed up in the shore, my friend here's hurt. But no, conflict, you need conflict somehow. So, and I feel like we're going to see some tension between Luke and his pack as he continues to have to choose between his pack, his people, the people he's in charge of, and Clary, because he's already had to make decisions that were difficult, because he's had to choose between who am I going to side with, who am I going to force, and he did well of trying to stay unbiased in the situation in Parabatai Lost, but it does seem to be getting more difficult, especially since Maya was so determined to avenge Gretel, and Tato looked very angry as well. Is it Tato? Is that his name, Tato? Spud or Gretel's godfather, was it? Yeah, that he was very annoyed as well. So I feel like that's going to be a future plot line, that Luke's pack are going to get a bit fed up with him choosing Shadowhunters over them. So that'll definitely be a good storyline for Luke, and we'll see how that continues on again as the episodes progress. This is like a setup for everything and getting wheels in motion. It's all very exciting. Raphael interfering with Simon's life, it was very interesting. I was like kind of on the fence about what way they were going with this whole you have to find Camille thing, but it's becoming that it's clear that Raphael is not going to let it go. Not that I really thought he would, but I didn't think that he would go as far as showing up to Simon's house or even finding his mum and sort of threatening her. I thought that he just would have kept pushing him, but it seems that Raphael is not taking any chances, which I suppose you can understand if you were under threat of getting your limbs burned off. I don't think I would be very calm about the situation either. So yeah, he showed up at the cafe where Simon's mum was and pretended to be Simon's band manager. I wrote this on Tumblr and I'm going to say it again. Did no one else get an AU all-human Saphael fanfiction vibes from that moment? Because seriously, Simon's band manager, surely that is on AO3 somewhere. I'm pretty sure it is. I wouldn't be surprised if I found out that the writers for Shadowhunters went on to AO3 and found a band manager AU and were just like, yeah, we're going to insert this. This is a very well written fanfiction. We're going to give a wee reference to it. And it was very funny, and it was a nice sort of tip of the hat to the fandom and the people who write AU fanfictions, and I just thought it was very funny, especially since Simon's mum had no idea. Like, she was sitting twittering away about the tour, and like Simon was just like, oh my god. Raphael was just like and Yeah, it was very interesting. I keep saying interesting, but my vocabulary is very limited when I'm talking of word of mouth. When I'm writing, it's fine, but you see when I'm talking off the top of my head, my mind goes blank. Simon's mum invited Raphael into their home whenever he wants. Now, I'm not sure how the Shadowhunters rules for vampires are, because I'm not sure if it was a rule in the books or not that vampires can't enter without permission. I can't remember, but I feel like with the sort of moment's pause they had for that, it was kind of like, oh, oh dear, that's gonna come back and bite her, literally. And I remember just feeling a wee pang in my chest, like, oh no, she shouldn't have done that. Because even like Raphael had a sort of a smirk on his face, and you're just like, oh dear, this can't be good. And yeah, I definitely think that's going to be something that's going to happen later if Simon can find Camille, maybe, because we haven't really seen Caitlin Lieb anywhere, like in the behind the scenes pictures or anything. I've seen David Castro, who plays Raphael, but I haven't seen Caitlin Lieb, who plays Camille, anywhere. So I'm thinking maybe she's going to come in and maybe season 2B, so maybe Simon can't find her, and then that becomes a problem, because then Raphael's going to get even more forceful, and not in the good way kind of forceful. And yeah, I feel like this is going to be where Simon's plot is going, defending his family, trying to find Camille before Raphael has enough and hurts his mum or his sister. We haven't seen any of his sister. And maybe, I'm just maybe thinking that since his mum started drinking again, maybe his sister left, or his sister's in school and she doesn't know that her mum's been drinking again. But the alcoholic plotline was something else that was very interesting. Again, I don't know if it was something that was in the books or not, but I definitely like that there's sort of different arcs with even the smallest of characters. Everyone has their own wee backstory and their own like little tropes, and everyone's got a sort of story and a plot going for them. They're not just there to be characters. Even Raj got more lines in this episode because everyone loved Raj for some reason. I don't understand it. Raj was like a backup character, and then all of a sudden there's like headcanons and stuff for him on Tumblr, and I was just like, why? He only said one line in season 1, but yeah, he's getting more attention. I seen in this promo he's getting even more lines in the next episode, so maybe Raj is going to become another reoccurring character, and maybe he'll get a plot as well. That was starting to be interesting. Jocelyn and Jace had a scene as well in this episode. It was awkward and uncomfortable to say the least, especially since Jocelyn has, for all Jace knows, has left him, tried to kill him, tried to harpoon him, basically hasn't raised him, but she raised Clary, basically ditched him, left him. So it was a very uncomfortable scene with a lot of tension, where it was basically like, you're my mum, but you're not my mum. I don't consider you my mother. And she's just like, I want to help you. But he's like, no, I'm better off my own than I am with you. It was a very awkward scene, but a good kind of awkward. It was supposed to be awkward. It was supposed to be awkward and terse and kind of, Jace is supposed to be a bit not even a bit. Jace is supposed to be very angry at her. I'm not surprised he's very angry at her. It makes sense for him to be angry at her. So there was a lot of contempt, especially from Jace in that scene. And it's becoming hard to tell where Jocelyn's loyalties lie. I'm not sure if she was trying to clear her conscience by trying to get Jace back to the Institute to help Alec, or, to make her feel better about being the reason that Alec was unconscious in the first place, or she actually genuinely had concern for what had happened to Alec, or what was going on. But it's become very confusing that from episode 1 she was trying to harpoon Jace and kill him, to then deciding, I want you to help your Parabatai. So maybe it's because she knows what it's like to lose a Parabatai, not like personally, but she's seen what it's like for like Luke, because Luke and Valentine were Parabatai. So maybe she just didn't want him to go through that. I don't know. I don't know if it's supposed to be part of the plot that we're supposed to be confused on where her loyalties lie, or what side she's on, but it's becoming very hard to tell what Jocelyn's story is going to be. So I'll definitely be interested to see on what they have planned for her, and I definitely want to see where they're going with the sibling plotline, because again, I've read the books, so I know what the outcome is. I'm sure most of you know anyway, but I don't want to say just in case, because I don't want to spoil anything. But yeah, it'll definitely be fascinating to see where they go with that, because the books didn't deal with it very well, so I hope the show does it better. I have faith in them too. final thing to talk about. Let's talk about the Jason Magnus bit. I'm not going to call it a scene because it wasn't exactly a whole scene, but there was a wee moment at near the end when Jace entered that Jason Magnus had a moment. It was a very small moment, but it spoke volumes. Jace walked in and Magnus stood up and he handed him the Adamus stone to try and help Alec. And it was sort of like an exchange of power because Magnus had been trying all day to help Alec. He'd been using his magic, he'd been making potions, he'd been doing everything, and it just wouldn't work. And this was Magnus basically handing the stone over to Jace and basically saying, you are our last hope. And Jace knew, and he took the stone, and there was even he was very gentle. I know this is going to sound weird, I don't mean this in a shipping way, because, no, he was very gentle, they sort of, took it, he didn't just take it, oh, my Parabatai's in trouble, can't talk. They had a moment where he took it, and they sort of looked at each other and sort of had, an understanding exchange, and it was very nice. It was the two people who love Alec. I wouldn't say the most, because there's Isabel as well, but two people who love Alec very much, sort of interacting and basically saying, look, this is all we have left, and we might lose him, and they're sort of having a moment where they're yes, this is it, it's now or never. And considering how the Shadowhunters treat Downworlders, in Parabatai Lost, in Parabatai Lost, we see Victor constantly just calling Magnus a warlock, just that warlock, that warlock in here, and you can see Magnus, he wasn't hurt, but he was very annoyed by it. I think it's very hard to hurt Magnus, but he was clearly annoyed by it. And considering how Shadowhunters treat Downworlders, I think it was very nice for Jace to have a sort of tender moment with Magnus. And again, I don't mean tender as in shipping wise. You can have tender moments without shipping, okay? I'm all over the Magnus and Jace bro TP. The teasing and all that stuff. The teasing each other and the jokes and stuff like that. I am all for that. I don't ship them at all. That is not my thing. Kudos if you do, ship what you like, but I don't. I'm all for them supporting each other and having an understanding through how much they care for Alec. And I just liked that they added that. I thought it was very poignant in the episode, and the exchange of power, two people who love Alec the most and are just having a moment where they're having a shared understanding of this might be it. And I just thought it was very nice, and it was a good build up to the very dramatic scene that I talked about in First Thoughts, that I cried about in First Thoughts. And yeah, it was very nice and a very good sort of build up to the end. So that's it for this episode. I didn't discuss any of the Parabatai and Malik stuff because I feel like I covered that enough in First Thoughts. It was all I talked about in First Thoughts, so you can see that when the split screen comes up, you can click First Thoughts and it should be at the bottom of the playlist if you want to see me gushing about Malik and the Parabatai connection and plot in Parabatai Lost. And I'll be back next week with my First Thoughts and Fair and Unbiased for Day of Wrath, I think the episode is called. The episode where Shadowhunters are apparently going to die, according to the promos. Conspiracy levels are off the wall right now. I am so ready. Well, I'm not ready. I don't want someone to die, but I can't wait. They get me excited every week. I can't wait for next week. I'll see you next week, Shadowhunters, Angels, and Downworlders alike. And just remember, if a werewolf asks you to help her friend, just do it, because you'll end up getting stalked if you don't.
Shadowhunters believe in the law as absolute. They can never conceive of one of their own going astray. 19 years ago, their lack of vision allowed the circle to almost decimate the entire Shadow.